Florida State was ranked number 19 in the college football playoff rankings last night. It's bowl projection time, and that's got us asking, could the Noles make an elite bowl this season? Hey guys, thanks for coming to the channel. Thanks for watching, tuning in. TJ Pittenger back with you again. Do me a favor, comment below and let me know which bowl you want to see FSU in. We're going to go through some of them here in just a minute, but I want to know your thoughts, where you want to see the Noles play, who you want to see them play against. It's been a while since we got to talk about bowls, so let's enjoy this while we can. We're going to talk about three things today. Number one, the bowls that FSU is being projected to play in, the pros and cons of some of them. Number two, the bowl that FSU is not being projected to play in, but the path to maybe getting there, spoiler alert, down in South Florida, and it's a New Year's Six one. And number three, the impact of the bowl on recruiting. First up, let's look at some projections. ESPN has two projections. The first one is for FSU to play South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. You'll remember back in 2010 when FSU took on the Gamecocks. That was the Greg Reed hit on Lattimore. The Noles won that game fairly easily. The other ESPN projection is for FSU to play Oklahoma State in the Cheez-It Bowl. That's the old Champs Sports Bowl there in Orlando. FSU played there in 2011 against Notre Dame. I'd love for the opportunity to take down a third SEC team in Jacksonville, but Oklahoma State would be a lot of fun and a good matchup in Orlando. I'd be okay with either one of these. Playing in Orlando for the final game of this season and the first game of next season with LSU coming to town would be a lot of fun. Noles fans typically travel to Orlando and Jacksonville very, very well. Remember the Orlando game against Ole Miss. We've done very well in bowls there. So I think these would be very well attended. I think these would be both fun matchups. Another publication that we're not going to go into specifically has Kentucky against Florida State in the bowl there in Jacksonville, the Gator Bowl. I think that'd be a little bit more of a fun matchup, but you probably have their quarterback sitting out. So I don't know. I think Florida State picks up a win either way. Getting a third win against the SEC would be a good season, though. 247 Sports has FSU against Cincinnati in the Military Bowl. This one stinks to me. I don't know if they're just projecting that Florida State's going to lose that Florida game, but I don't think that this bowl has a ton of prestige. No offense to the military, all respect there, of course. This matchup at one time was UCF until the Knights beat Tulane, and it looks like now they'll get the at-large bid in the New Year's Six Bowl. But I don't like this one at all. Going to Maryland in late December just sounds awful. It's kind of a low-prestige bowl, not a lot of excitement around it, and I don't think there's a lot to be gained from playing Cincinnati. I think you beat them by 14 or 21 points and beat them pretty easily. I don't love this one. Again, I don't really understand this projection. I think that the Noles will qualify for a little bit better bowl here, so I don't know if this projection is just based on maybe they think Florida State's going to lose to Florida in 2 weeks, but I don't see the Noles ending up there. Action Network has a fun one. They have FSU against Utah in the Holiday Bowl. I don't really see this happening, but a trip to Southern California around Christmas would be pretty neat. I'm not sure if I could personally make the trip or not, so I'll say for our kids, that'd be really, really neat. But it'd also be a pretty interesting matchup. Utah began their season with a loss to Florida. It'd be pretty fun and pretty fitting for us to put a final loss on the end of their season. Location here is a pro. Opponent here is a pro. Bowl prestige, kind of meh, but this would be one that I think is pretty fun. Sporting News says that we could play Texas in the Cheez-It Bowl. Again, that's in Orlando. The other projection was Oklahoma State there. This would be a ton of fun. FSU versus Texas, two iconic brands. Local, again, very good crowd. I think the Texas folks would travel well. They've had a pretty good year. I think this one would be a lot of fun there in Orlando. Lastly, we'll do this one, and I don't love this either, but the USA Today has FSU in the Sun Bowl against Oregon State. I assume the way that they're projecting this is thinking that, again, FSU loses to UF and they're dropping a little bit. This is the worst possible scenario to me. It's an awful location. It's an awful from a prestige look, and it's not a very good opponent that I don't think I like much at all. Again, I don't think that this one happens. To me, this is a scenario where Florida State loses to Florida, maybe loses by a lot, and gets dropped all the way down to the Sun Bowl. I don't think that this is going to happen, but we'll see. Okay, that's it for the projections that are out. How about some talk about a projection that's not been made. The Orange Bowl. It's been mentioned, but is it really a possibility? Well, I think so. Florida State could get into the Orange Bowl, but it takes a pretty specific scenario. It's a pretty direct scenario. Clemson has to make the playoff. There's not even really enough chaos, I think, that could happen to get Florida State high enough up to get an at-large bid. There are only 2 at-large bids this year based on where the bowls are. One of those is going to go to the top group of 5 team, and then Florida State would have to get all the way up to get the next at-large bid. And I just don't think there's enough that can go crazy realistically for that to happen. So let's just say the only way for Florida State to make it is for Clemson to make the playoff. What has to happen for Clemson to make that playoff? Well, right now, Clemson came out number 9 in the college football playoff rankings last night. I still think there's a path for them, though. Ahead of Clemson is Alabama, USC, and LSU. I think that Clemson will pass Alabama and LSU by virtue of winning out and taking the ACC crown against UNC. Alabama won't play on championship weekend, and LSU will most likely lose to Georgia. They'll need help to pass USC, though, but that help isn't too wild to think up. Notre Dame plays USC, and that's a team that's been rising here over the last few weeks. They beat Clemson, and Notre Dame winning that game would not only help USC to fall behind Clemson, but it would also validate Clemson's loss to them. Obviously, ACC championship happens. Clemson needs to win that against maybe a top 10 UNC team at that time. And I think that by winning that game, Clemson will jump whoever loses the Ohio State-Michigan game. That leaves 5 teams for 4 spots. UGA, the winner of Ohio State and Michigan, let's call it Ohio State for now, TCU, Tennessee, and Clemson. You would honestly only need a TCU loss over any of the next 3 weeks, and I think Clemson gets in. Now, of course, the Pac-12 could mess this up. If USC wins out, beats a Notre Dame team, and then beats everybody on their schedule, they may stay ahead of Clemson. But if you can get some help from Notre Dame, and if you can get TCU to drop 1 game between now and the end of the year, I think Clemson gets in. Now, college football is obviously wild, and who knows if it'll work out just like this, but it's really not as far-fetched as you may think. Obviously, the Noles need to win their last 2 games, and they should be ranked ahead of UNC at that point, and I think they'll get the auto bid for the Orange Bowl. Lastly, what's this do for recruiting? Well, number 1, it's huge. Getting a New Year's Six Bowl means a national game against another very strong brand. It means you're seen competing against the best. Signing day will have already happened, so its impact on this class is very minimal, but being able to have recruits from that 2024 class that live in the area, a very talent-rich area of Miami, attend that game or just know that you're in town is huge. It shows proof of concept with what Norvell is doing. It shows that a team can go from 3 to 5 to 10 wins and play against the absolute best. It shows that FSU is a game or 2 away from competing for it all. It shows that with a few more key additions, FSU can compete with anybody in the country. Winning any bowl as your 10th win this year would be big. Winning the Orange Bowl would be massive. Comment your thoughts below. I'd love to know what bowl you want to see the Noles in, what bowl you would maybe attend, what bowl you want to see us play from a matchup perspective. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Of course, we always like likes and subscribes and all those things too. Do those if you wish. Share button's awesome. But make sure you comment with your thoughts below. I want to hear what bowl you're interested in. I want to hear what bowl you want to see the Noles in. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.